So in the previous video, I made a new sketch. Now, if I have a sketch that already exists and I need to make a modification to it, change it, do something with that sketch, I need to double click on it. I don't want to make a new sketch. You want to make a modification to an existing sketch. So the right way to do that is to simply double click on that sketch. Once I double click, I'm entering back into that Sketcher application. You'll see once again, I'm inside of Sketch. I've seen it in the past where someone hits that icon, goes to the Sketch task environment, and they accidentally make a new sketch rather than make a modification to the existing sketch, and they just end up stacking sketch on top of sketch on top of sketch. We want to stay away from that. So if you see it in the tree or in the window, just double click on it to make those modifications. Now that I'm back inside of my Sketcher, you'll see once again, at the top, it tells me I'm in the Sketch application. I have all of my various tools, as well as my selection intent. You'll notice once I'm in the sketch, I'm in a tool. So the selection intent becomes very important. This is part of the overall NX universe where, depending on the application I'm in, tool that I'm in, the selection intent, once again, is going to change based off of that application. Also, other things that you want to pay attention to is as I'm drawing, as I'm doing something, as I'm creating, I will obviously select on an icon. So if I go into, let's say, a rectangle, you'll notice I get this little menu that pops up. So these are the rectangle options for the Sketcher. If I look at my cursor, you'll notice I have this little menu or little flag that pops up next to that. So this is telling you, hey, do you want to drop a point at this specific coordinate location? I can come in, I can type in the values that I want. Based off of the tool that I'm in, this little menu next to the cursor is going to change. So if I come over here and change my input mode, you'll notice it goes to width and height, as well as based off of the type of rectangle, in this case, width, height, and angle. So it's very important you pay attention, let me go ahead and close that out, to what's going on next to the cursor as you select on the tools. So for example, if I click on circle, I have various options for the circle tool. And once again, if I change this to input mode, I can type in a diameter. So once I type in that diameter, it'll lock that diameter value in. So if I need to make multiple circles, I can go ahead and do multiple circles. But I have to understand what my input is. So pay close attention to these menus, to these tools, because oftentimes what someone is looking for is right there, right next to the cursor, or it's in the little menu that pops up. And I've seen it before where the menu pops up on a different monitor, it gets buried behind something. So you may have to go looking for it the first few times to understand what's going on. Also, in this case, if I want to make a change to the text field, all you have to do is start typing. You'll notice that if I try to move the cursor, it's not going to allow me to move the cursor into the text field. The system knows that if I'm going to change anything by typing anything into the keyboard, it's going to automatically fill in that text field. So if I said I want a diameter, let's say of 10, I just start typing, I get 10. If I came over here and I have something with multiple fields, you'll notice by default, the first field is highlighted. So if I come over here and hit enter, you'll notice it keeps the first value and it moves to the second value. So working with these menus, once you understand that you can't click in that text field, you just need to start typing in that field, and using keyboard keys like the tab key or the enter key will allow you to move to the next one is critical. Otherwise, you're going to get stuck. How do I make a change to this text field? So just start typing. That's all you need to do. As far as, again, the overall interface, that ribbon has changed. You'll see I have tools, view, analysis, very different than what I see inside of the modeling world. So if you're missing a tool here, then chances are it's outside of the sketch. Another thing that I do want to mention, very important, is under menu, preferences. Menu preferences for sketch, once I click on that, may get a little pop-up, sketch preferences to edit the settings. of the active sketch, use sketch settings in the task menu. Okay, so I'm selecting OK. I come in. So that's just prompting you, hey, you're going to make changes. Now, as I'm making my changes, these are the overarching sketch preferences to that sketch. You'll see here I can change the text height of my constraints. I have inferred constraints where the system's going to automatically generate some, as you can see, dimensions or geometric constraints. I'll be talking about these here shortly. And then you have the symbol sizes and again, the text height. So you want to pay attention to these. Another thing that you want to pay attention to here is under the session settings, snap angle. So if I'm drawing a line within 3 degrees of horizontal or vertical, or another line that it could potentially snap to being parallel to, it'll snap based off of that angle. Other things are basic how you interact with a sketch, like these auto dimensions. When I draw something, these dimensions just pop up and you can have those display or on or off. There's a switch out here, which we'll also talk about. And as far as what happens when you go into the task environment, the curves, what color of the background do you have? So you have all of these options. Part settings. These part settings are, again, very important. I try not to touch these or change these because these are default, and this is one of those things that's basically a global NX type of thing where it's the analysis of the sketch as you're drawing things. So this is the default color of curves. This is the default color of constraint and dimensions, automatic dimensions. If I've done something incorrectly in the sketch, over constrained conditions where I have a line, I'm trying to tell it to be 2 different lengths, for example, then it's over constrained, and this will tell you that there's something wrong with the constraints. Same thing with conflicting objects. Maybe I have a constraint that's saying be perpendicular to 2 lines or parallel at the same time. Those are conflicting. So the system throws up colors flagging that you have issues with the sketch. And that's what these part settings are for, just to let you know what's going on with your constraints and your curves. Important. And again, once you've used the system a few times, all of this stuff becomes intuitive. You'll see red typically means something bad. Magenta, same kind of thing when you see these things happen as part of an analysis. So it's important you pay attention to these. At first, they may seem a little confusing, but once you understand what the system is telling you, it all makes sense. I'm just going to simply select OK. And once I'm out, I'm done working on my sketch. I've made whatever changes, applied whatever I wanted to apply. All I have to do is hit finish. And once again, I exit out and I'm back in model space. So if I need to go back into the sketch, once again, you just double click on the sketch. And once I'm complete, you just finish. So it's like an on-off switch for the sketch. That's all that is.